So, it's interesting. The last time we talked, you talked a lot about Disney. You talked a lot about it. You have like this really vast amount of experience at a very high level, and you're so down to earth. And it's like, it's such a pleasure to talk to you. I so appreciate that. So you were just mentioning a bunch of things. So, what's the best starting point for us? Like, if there's an audience out there and they want to hear not just about you, but your story, like how you got to where you are and like what was the biggest challenge? Because there's so much depth. Where would you like to start? I'm going to let you drive the show this time.
Wow, that's fun. Well, hold on to your hat. It's a long story, but it's a really interesting story because it really does start with my upbringing. And when I go out and meet people and talk about what I do today, which is helping organizations build their culture to drive extraordinary experiences, not only for their customers, but for their team members. It all started really with learning that from my parents. My mom was the ultimate uh, hospitality manager, if you will, before there
Mhm.
was a title. She was the queen of guest services in our home. And what that meant was caring for others. So I learned that at a very young age. Our house was always open to people, strangers, family. There was always a meal. My mother could open a refrigerator and create a buffet. And next thing you know, people have been fed, they're happy, they're in a warm and comfortable environment, and they're felt to be seen as well as a sense of belonging. That's my mom. On the other side, conversely, my dad gave me my work ethic. My dad was a laborer, a construction person who got up every morning at 5, probably in the morning, and I would see him as I was, going out and heading to whether it was, elementary school, middle school, high school. And my dad would be reading the paper and out the door by 6:30 and come home at 5 o'clock and do that 5 days a week, still manage a household, still manage to do projects around the house, whether it's the tasks we all do, whether it's cutting grass or putting on an addition to our home when I grew up in Connecticut. So where I lean to is that type of philosophy in my head, that work ethic, that hospitality is all about caring for others and pushing yourself every single day to drive. If you're not a driver, if you're going to be stagnant, then you're really not going to go anywhere. And I think people love to be motivated towards a goal. And I've always been goal driven to be not successful for myself, but successful for the people around me and successful for the organizations I'm working in.
Nice. So you were a very fortunate and blessed, had a childhood. So good for you. Nice, good parents. They really modeled for you what it looked like to be in the business that you ended up eating, sleeping, and breathing, right? So yeah, and that's a nice reflection of who you are today. It's interesting. I just want to step back for a second because you made a comment about don't being about not being stagnant, right? And there's a quote. Maya Angelou talks about leaving a legacy and leaving a mark on this earth, right? So that's part of that also. And then I always liken it to this vision that I have of, when you step into a pool of water or you throw a rock and how it ripples, like it's just that one step and then it ripples out. And then you take another step and it ripples more. And I think that's the same thing with our life. And Jack Canfield says, just lean into it even if you're fearful, even if there's all of that talk, the self-talk that we say to ourselves, like, oh, you can't do that, or don't do that, or that's going to be a mistake, or somebody else is giving you some negative, vibes. If you just lean into it, you start to have that ripple effect. And I think that is a blessing when you can do that for yourself, because if you didn't do that, look at all the people and the teams and the organizations that you've had the opportunity to serve for many years. I mean, I don't want to guess your age in public, but you and I are both probably around the same age, and I know how it feels to be able to be in a place of service. And then I don't know for you, is where's your greatest satisfaction? Where does that come from?
I think my greatest satisfaction, that's a really good question because it's certainly in different areas. And there's home life satisfaction, raising your family, and being a good partner to your spouse. That's part of it. Then there's the work life satisfaction and growing in an organization, but being able to work with talented people around you and help them grow and help them find their abilities to be at the next level or to take on a challenge. I was lucky in my early career. I recognized, and Deborah, we talked about this. I started my career at Disney as a recreation host, also known as a lifeguard. And I was going to college. I was a freshman in college, and I was 18 years old. And I realized that Disney had 10,000 employees at that time. I was one of 10,000 people rowing in the same direction to help our guests create and have an extraordinary vacation. We knew what our purpose was, all of us, for Disney is to create happiness and have people enjoy their vacation. And I knew what my role was to be a lifeguard, but I also recognized, and it's kind of leaning into what you said about the ripple effect. How do I get into this pool of 10,000 people and create that ripple effect as an individual? And so I always feel that, again, not everybody's the same, but you have to make your mark by asking to do things that other people won't do, or to volunteer, or to keep on learning uh, the operations or the life challenges that you have in front of you. It's always a learning situation. And so at Disney, I would volunteer to be the guy that would come in at 4 o'clock in the morning to set out chairs for the Easter egg hunt, or the person that would go and work in housekeeping when it was raining outside. Lifeguards were, you're supposed to go home, but I would go and learn how to make beds or to clean rooms. So I think your question is a good one. There's satisfaction is learning, satisfaction is the work, satisfaction is home, and balancing all those things, I think helps you to be a stronger person. Is life easy? No, it's not. There's ups and downs, and you never know what's going to happen. There's illnesses. I lost my mom at 57 to cancer. I was a young guy then when we lost her, and but she provided me with those life lessons to be able to be who I am today. So I feel like my greatest satisfaction is providing those life lessons to my children and to the teams that I was able and fortunate enough to lead or to work with. I think one of my philosophies is always about people first, and secondly is I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I feel like leaders have to surround themselves with the smartest people in the room and use their talents to drive the organization and to drive successes. And if I can nudge them along the way, if I can help them to grow by giving them an assignment, I was lucky to do that. I got assignments that most people wouldn't get, but I was visible, and to be able to be picked to go and help the Walt Disney Company do their shareholders meetings out of the blue. I was in meetings and conventions, and I was doing a lot of high profile events. And from 1995 until, I don't know, 2019, I was doing corporate meetings and events for Disney around the globe because of the relationships, because someone took a chance on me to do something.
So that speaks volumes on two sides. First, for you, because you showed up. There's plenty of people, especially when they're younger. They're a lifeguard. It's a little bit of a kind of caveat of a job. That I'm looking for the right word and I can't find it, but it's a little bit of like, oh, I'm a lifeguard. I'm not going to make beds, right? I'm not going to go clean a room. And without that ego, staying humble and grounded, you showed up and you took the initiative. So you showed up. So that's a big piece of it. The other piece of it is that attitude combined with the right culture leads and breeds success and breeds positive, healthy environments and future leaders. And I think that's the one thing that if I'm hearing this correctly, the people at Disney had that culture. It was a healthy, grounded, supportive, not just watching somebody do a job and patting them on the back, but actually recognizing it and saying, you know what, Barry's the guy. He's the guy that I want because I know he'll show up. I know that he doesn't mind rolling up his sleeves and doing the work that has to get done. And when you're a leader, I think then you're in a position where people are watching you. Your team is watching you. You're modeling the behavior, right? And the strategy. And look, not everybody's going to be on the same page. You're going to have, whatever internal issues that you have to figure out before everybody puts a smile on their face, especially at Disney, and walks outside and starts smiling it right to all the clients and the customers. But for you, it's you were always in service. And I think that based on what you told me about what you shared about your parents, the work ethic and what your mom, what you got from your mom, you're very fortunate, very blessed. And then you did something with it. So good for you. Good for
Yeah,
you.
I think you touched on some things about there's Disney and then there's what organizations should think about. And I'll share this with you. What I love to do today is work with organizations and help them understand there's a common purpose. What do you wake up every single day to do? What is it? What need are you fulfilling, and how are you doing it? And how does the entire organization understand clearly what they're supposed to be doing? Simon Sinek talks about it all the time. It's
Yep.
the why. He's famous for it. Disney calls it a common purpose. Starbucks has it. Delta has it. Everybody comes to work every day, and Delta maybe keep climbing, but there's a whole series of standards and behaviors behind that. What does that mean, keep climbing? It probably means, keep providing great service, keep making sure that our planes are safe, please keep training our people and developing them to grow into different things. So everybody has it. So common purpose is one. Then it's your brand promise. What are you promising to do? What are you giving back every single day to the client, to the customer, and to your employees? And then the last but not least is consistently delivering operational excellence. So Disney does that. Many organizations do that. I think you have to keep that in mind every single day when you wake up, whether you're doing logistics and driving vehicles like Amazon, or a
Mhm.
logistics company, a trucking company bringing goods and services from point A to point B, a 7-Eleven, a Wawa, and a racetrack. So I think about those, and I'll share that story about racetrack and Wawa and 7-Eleven and all the other convenience stores that are out there. The last thing I talk about is what's going to separate you from every other commodity.
Yep.
So it's really that way you treat your people and ultimately how your employees treat the customer that sustains your business. And Disney is a great example. I say 99.5% of the time, boy, we get it right. But that 0.5% where there's challenges, you have to overcome them. You have to learn from them. Everybody makes mistakes. You got to be humble enough to apologize for it, and you've got to fix it right there and then and move on. And some organizations don't do that. So I think, thank you for saying the nice things about my family. I'm not unlike any other family. There were great times and there were unique times. And there were times when I was in trouble, but I gleaned not only from my family, but from the leaders I worked with throughout my career. There's extraordinary people that gave me guidance, held me accountable, challenged me when I was out of bounds or did something that probably wasn't smart. But I learned from it. And I think the one thing you said, which I loved, Lee Cockrell, who's a famous Disney leader, senior vice president of operations, you said it, everybody's watching you as a leader. And so
Mhm.
you have to be the best you can be every day. Was I perfect? No. Did it sometimes I say the wrong thing? Perhaps. But consistently what I did was care, appreciate, and respect everyone around me.
That's great. That's great. So, you turn this into like the business. So now you're a leader in a business, no matter what the culture is. And let's focus on a healthy culture because I've experienced both. I've experienced unbelievably dysfunctional, and then I've experienced the really healthy ones. So we're in a healthy culture. You've got now, I don't know, Disney's up to how many employees
Well,
worldwide?
probably at Walt Disney World over 100,000 employees. So
Yeah.
around the globe, I'm going to say it's over 300,000 employees probably.
Okay. So 300, let's say, all right, 300,000. Yep, 300,000 employees, and everybody's got the deliverables need to be consistent so that when a customer goes from one Disneyland park to another, to another, to another, it's the same. They're getting the same quality food, they're seeing the same quality shows. Everything is happening pretty much at the same level. Is that accurate?
Yes,
Okay, this
very
is so
accurate.
interesting. I love this. I love this. I talk to my clients all day long about SOPs, and we're talking about small little things. And here you're talking about a global organization that needs to do this for 300,000 employees. So that it's got to be top down. I'm a very big believer that if the culture is not right in the head of the leader, it's going to get wonky on the way down. You like that word wonky? That's a professional term. So
Good
it's
term.
like
I like it.
it's a good term. It makes sense. So now you've got the standards. You've got everything is pretty much duplicatable. You've got 300,000 employees who look, some people have bad days, they don't show up for work. It's the same labor issues I think that any business anywhere, right, in the world has. And then for Disney, you're also publicly traded. So you also have to hit certain revenue and profit goals. And you've got a board that wants things done a certain way and they want to pull a certain amount of money out from their investments. I don't know if Disney is an ESOP. Is it an ESOP? Do they offer that?
It was at one point, but no, there is profit sharing for certain levels, and but early on it was an ESOP, yes, and I took advantage of that early on
Good
when I
for
was a
you.
young
Yeah,
person.
I wish I had been that smart. So I wish I had known you then because I might have worked with you at Disney. So now you've got your shareholders, you've got your employees, you've got your customers, you need to make a profit and maintain the culture. What is it like to have to balance all of that?
Um, I think to your point, it really did. It is all about culture. The culture was set by Walt Disney himself. And subsequently, throughout the history of the company, those beliefs, those values, those standards and behaviors are not only talked about, but they're practiced and they're aligned. And it's almost, I told people it's almost maniacal, but it is a passion that every leader has. So leadership, as we said early on, when we were talking, leadership sets the example, leadership models the behavior. You said it that if it comes from the top, and if you look at Walt Disney himself, the subsequent CEOs, the most recent CEOs, Michael Eisner, Bob Iger, and now Josh D'Amaro, and the leaders below them all hold everyone accountable to those standards. So if the best example, and anybody can look this up, you will see a photograph online. You could do Walt Disney picking up trash. Okay. Walt Disney in the park picking up trash. Why? Because it was a standard, it's cleanliness. And we all still do it today. I still do it. I'm retired from the company since 2019. When I go visit the parks, I'm picking up a piece of paper because I'm afraid that one of my old leaders or the CEO of the company is going to be behind me and say, "Hey, Barry, you walked over that piece of paper. What's wrong with you?" I was in New York recently, and I do a lot of public speaking, and I was coming out of my hotel I was staying in, and there was trash around the entrance to the lobby. And so I saw this woman and her daughter walking by. I said, "Would you do me a favor? I'm going to pick this paper up because that's just what I do, but would you take a picture of me doing it?" And it's only because it's ingrained in you. So your question is, how do they do it across the platforms throughout every single location that Disney has responsibility? Similar to McDonald's, you're not going to get a McDonald's burger is not going to be different somewhere else. it's a constant, consistent eyeball on the details. And that's the intentional details that make up all these small little details that create the guest experience. And so that's why companies like Disney, Delta, uh, McDonald's, for the most part, now Bucky's, crazy place. They're all
Wait a
making
minute, wait a minute. I love Buc-ee's. Hold on.
I don't dislike it. I'm just saying, I mean, it's crazy when you go in,
Yeah,
but
everybody says hi.
everybody welcomes you.
Yep,
You won't walk into a Moe's store, that serves tacos and they don't say welcome to Moe's. Why? Because it's a standard. But you have to tell the people the reason why. The team members need to know the why behind you're doing that. So at
yep,
Disney, we all wear our name tags. Well, that's because we want to begin a connection with our guests right away. Your name tag is important. You wear it every day. It's part of your uniform. If you show up without your name tag, you're sent off stage. Sorry, no name tag. Go to wardrobe and get a name tag. Well, my name's Barry. Well, if they don't have Barry, you're going to be John today because you can't come on stage. We call it being on stage without
yep.
that name tag.
I
So
love that.
that's a standard. And the
That's a great
same way,
standard.
we don't let people wear mirrored sunglasses at Disney. Why? Because we want to see your eyes. We want to have that eye contact. In Central Florida, you have to have sunglasses. Southern California, you got to have sunglasses, bright as ever outside. But it's those little small details. And what I do think is that no business is perfect. We make mistakes at Disney. You could go to your favorite restaurant, Deborah. You could bring your guests there. You've been going there for years. It's amazing. And uh-oh, the salmon dish comes out or the steak comes out, it's overcooked, the salmon doesn't taste right, and you're like, oh my God, what went wrong? Now, if the manager who knows the Pearlman family who comes in all the time and you call him over and he's like, I am so sorry. He apologizes to your guests. Let me make this up to you. I'd love for you to come back in again. I don't know what happened, or let me recook this for you. Let me make amends, please. It's one guest, one moment at a time. Sure, in the back of his head, to your point, oh, the bottom line, the food cost, I got to make money. No, it's one guest, one moment at a time, one interaction, fix it. So consistency in delivery, standards and behaviors that everybody aligns to, and not aligns in a way where somebody, going to hit you over the nose with a newspaper. They're going to remind you, hey, Barry, don't forget to wear your name tag. Hey, Barry, don't forget, we all pick up paper. And I can tell you that Walt thing is ingrained in 100,000 people at Walt Disney World. And it doesn't matter what level you are, you'll pick up paper. You might have a picker, we have these things, little tweezers, but for the most part, I mean, I'm picking up paper, putting it in the trash, going and washing my hands and moving on. So I think your question is a good one. It is not easy, and that's the last thing I
No,
would say about you. When you mention this, how do you do it? It's constant attention to detail.
and everybody has to be on the same page. And then when there's disagreement or someone decides that they're just not going to be Disney minded anymore, it's typically that's when they need to leave. What else do? You can't, because
Yeah, and
everybody
I
has to
think
be on that.
I totally think that Disney and other organizations are smart about this. It really starts in your hiring process with clear direction on the type of people you're looking for. Certainly you can do it now with a lot of testing and
Yep.
AI and motivational based questions, and there's all these things. But I suggest that be very clear about the type of people you want, be clear about the standards and behaviors expected by the organization. Make sure that you have a training and an onboarding plan that is rich and robust and helps this new person, this new hire, understand what's going on. And then check in with them. Leaders and whether you have a qualified trainer to train those new people on your team, new hires on your team, check in with them. Make sure they're okay. Make sure that they're not failing because nobody likes to fail, right? They want to be successful. So,
Yeah.
we talk about make our cast members, that's what we call Disney employees. They're part of the
Hmm.
cast, part of the show. Make our cast members knowledgeable so that they know what to do in every single situation. And then if a situation arises that's new and you fix something or you made a mistake, then you got to document it, you got to talk about it, and you got to have continuous improvement to make sure it doesn't happen again. Um, when I worked at Golden Oak, our residential community at Disney, oftentimes I would go and dine in the restaurant and get an egg white omelet. And if I could tell if we had a new line cook that had not been trained because the omelet would come out flat, it wasn't whipped right, it wasn't cooked properly. So I would just talk to the chef and I'd say, hey, chef, my executive chef, hey, you might want to take a moment and spend some time with the
Yep.
person who's doing this so that they know how to do it properly because everybody's looking for consistency in the deliverable.
Good for you. Oh my goodness. So, all right. So you retired from Disney in 2019. What are you doing now?
Well, I started my own advisory service, a consulting business, Barry Jacobson Consulting. And I work with organizations who are trying to create a culture of excellence, an ability to deliver extraordinary customer service and extraordinary experiences for their customers. And so I've worked with various types of organizations. One of my first clients was an orthopedic and spine center who had 8 different clinics in Denver, 45 different physical therapy locations. And so they wanted help with how to create a better patient experience. And this was right coming out of COVID and spent some time with them. And we developed standards and behaviors to be able to do that. And I've worked with some mental health clinics, stadiums. It really doesn't matter. It's really a private club I help open. I do some public speaking as well, keynote speaking with organizations. Did one for the Society of Clinical Research Sites. Did a couple for Jefferson Apartment Group, a group that operates apartments up and down, apartment complexes up and down the Eastern Seaboard. And every time I work with these organizations, whether it's the apartment group or I worked with a company that does remodeling of baths, um, I try to dive deep into their organization and say, what's going to make you deliberately different than anybody else? How are you going to have the best residential experience within your different apartment complexes? What's going to make you different? It's one, making sure your people are friendly and that they're kind to the residents that are living there. Figure out ways to engage them and make them feel like a sense of belonging and do things that are special that they won't expect. So one of the things that I shared with the apartment group is that, get to know your residents. A lot of people, that's their home. So, some people, it might be a temporary living situation until they buy their own home. But for many people, an apartment is your home. So treat them as homeowners. And secondly, as you get to know them, let's say Deborah's living there and you see her one morning and, hey, Deborah, good morning. Wow, somebody said good morning to me. Mrs. Pearlman, good morning. Yeah, how are you doing? I'm a little under the weather. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Now imagine if Mrs. Pearlman goes back to her apartment later in the day and there's a paper bag with a note on it. And inside that paper bag, and in the note, it says, Deborah, we hope you're feeling better soon. He opens up the paper bag and there's a can of Campbell's chicken soup. What? You think anybody has thought of that? Now, I'm not a genius about that, but with every organization, it's those
There's
little
something. It's something.
touches. And
Yeah.
and it's like when you go into a restaurant, they bring you an amuse-bouche, that little taste in the beginning, or a lagniappe, some people call it, or at the end, here's a couple of chocolates. It's that one little thing. And
Yeah.
same with another group I worked with, helping them to figure out how can you be better than your competition. So whether you're remodeling a bathroom, for example, what are you doing to thank those people when you're done remodeling their bathroom for $10,000? These are not inexpensive things to do. Are you
Mhm.
thanking them? Are you giving them a little note that says, enjoy your new shower and bath area with some bath salts and a little rubber duck with your logo on it? I
Something.
mean,
Yeah.
these are not rocket science things. So since what I love to do is work with companies and go out and talk with companies who want to be extraordinary and not just ordinary.
Interesting. That's good. There's, back in the day when I used to do door knocking in the garment industry, I would literally walk up and down Broadway in Manhattan and go to the top of one of the 1800 buildings and knock on every door of every manufacturer. And I knew where the cleanest bathrooms were. This is before 9/11. So you could walk into any building. You didn't need security. You didn't need a pass. You didn't need to be on a visitor guest list. I just go in, knock on the doors, come down. And I remember thinking that there's got to be a way because there's so many of me out there. There's so many people selling something. So how do I, as an individual, differentiate myself? So I used to do a jar on, and I think this was something that a lot of people probably did at the time. We would get a glass jar, we'd fill it with like individually wrapped Tootsie Rolls or something, and we would put our business card on there and just with a note on the front, a little label, enjoy your day, and the receptionist could keep it, right? So people would see it. And then I had the excuse to go back in at least once a month to refill it. So I would be able to get back in there, and eventually it would turn into a conversation because the gatekeeper back then, the gatekeeper was the receptionist. They were tough. They were hard to you. It was really hard to find the purchasing agent, right? And so basically you're bribing the receptionist with Tootsie Rolls is what happens. So
Well, and
that's how we did it.
I think the other thing we're doing is creating connections. So,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Danny Meyer, who started Shake Shack, and then went on to other restaurants and 11 Madison Park and these high-end, beautiful places. It's ABC, always building connections. So you were building a connection with someone
Yeah.
at that moment in time. And I think, connecting and communicating are critical parts of any business. I was reading something the other day where some business was just challenged. They were out of something, but they were transparent about it, right? Somebody came in, oh, they were disappointed. Let me tell you what happened. Let me tell you why this was is going on. And you feel better about it. Come back in a week and I'll have that particular dish that you want because the supply chain didn't work, or the
Yeah.
product
It happens.
product came in the back door and it wasn't right. People want to know what's going on, and I think you were building a connection. I don't think you were bribing them. I think you were
Thank you.
ingenious in trying to create a relationship. And
Yeah.
many of my roles that I was in order to get things accomplished, I had to have relationships around the globe at Disney when I was doing company events. And I always was. I don't like to. I always say you can't manage from behind your desk. You have to be out. You have to be talking to your team members, your cast members, your employees. You have to be talking to your guests, your customers, and you have to be making relationships because at the end of the day,
Yeah.
you're going to pick up the phone and you're going to need something, and you're going to say in the middle of the night, like I had to do once. I had to call the guy who was in charge of engineering for all of Walt Disney property in the middle of the night to find me as many door hooks that he could find in the warehouse so I could put them on a silver tray so they could be presented the next morning by Mickey Mouse, by Michael Eisner, to the head architect of the Disney company who built a beautiful hotel. But when Michael was in his room, he went to hang something on the back of the door in the bathroom and
There
there
was
was
no
no
hook.
door hook. Now, many
That's a great way to
people,
give a
if I would have,
message.
if I would have sat in my office all my life and not known that how to get a hold of someone at 11 o'clock at night and get this rolling because I was asked to do something and I'm a guy that likes to solve for yes. I said, okay, let me see what I can do.
Awesome.
I never say yes right away because of how am I going to create this magic? But I knew who to call. I knew how to speak to somebody and to build the relationship. I introduced myself. I didn't say, "Hey, this is Barry. I'm doing this project with the Disney Board of Directors, and this is what I need." Of course not. Introduced myself, very kind, made a connection, told them what was going on. We had a good laugh about it. The next morning, thanks to my entertainment team, Mickey comes out with a silver tray covered. The Mickey Mouse March is playing. Michael Eisner makes a joke and calls up the head architect, a guy by the name of Wing Chow, a Disney legend, and makes a joke out of it. And you know what? The Walt Disney Company didn't shut down because of that door hook, but we had fun, we laughed, and we solved the problem later. We fixed the door hooks. But my point is connections, relationships, and treating each other as human beings is how you make this
Yeah,
world work. We could use a
100%.
little of that now.
Absolutely. Well, oh, yeah, absolutely. So I guarantee you he never forgot another door hook ever.
Probably not.
And
And
then I just want to go back.
yes.
What were you gonna say?
No, I'm going to say that we've all had our door hook moments. I have.
Every
Um,
single one of us have. We
I'll
all
tell
do.
one.
And we,
I'll tell my one door hook moment. So I was producing a dinner for Bob Iger, and I'm not name dropping, by the way. Apologies, but I was doing a large scale dinner for Bob Iger at Disney World in one of our restaurants, and I didn't read the menu properly. All I saw was it was starting with Caesar salad. And I went into the kitchen as I always do while they're prepping this to put the salad out and bring it to the table. And I look at the Caesar salad and I go, wow, that's an interesting Caesar salad. Yeah, Barry, it's a fennel Caesar salad. Fennel Caesar salad. Okay. I didn't question the chef at that time, but I knew what fennel tasted like. And if you know what the Caesar dressing tastes like, interesting combination. Fennel is a very Italian vegetable. Anyhow,
yeah.
it goes out. And what did I learn later? That Bob Iger does not like fennel. So
Oh no.
I had my door hook moment. So yeah, I think we've
Okay.
all had them.
Yeah.
I didn't get fired
Okay.
though. I kept working.
Yeah, I don't, yeah, nobody should get fired over fennel. I don't think that should ever happen. I think though that when there's somebody like that, somebody should have some dietary guidelines, I guess, right? So that has to get added to the SOPs, I guess, right?
Yes, and I knew several of
Ay.
them. I knew several of those dietary restrictions for everybody at the table. But again, no different than my dearest friend Wing made this, and of course, Wing is designing these things all over the world. Down the road, somebody missed that one little detail, and back to our original discussion, it's all about the details and
It is all
attention to
about the
detail.
details.
And you can miss things, but we had a good laugh about it.
Yeah. I want to go back real quick to one thing you said. So ABC is always build connections.
Always building connections. Yes.
Always. So back in the day when I started in sales, Glenn Ross, you know that movie?
Mhm.
ABC was always be closing. I think always be connecting or always building connections. I think that's a much healthier approach, and I like that. So I'm not going to say always be closing anymore. I'm done with that.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
do
I
a
think
I do a whole series of leadership in one of my speeches. I do the ABCs, and I mentioned a couple of them: always be connecting, always be communicating, always be coaching, always
it's
be
good.
all these ABCs, and I list them all and we talk about them all. But I say if you do all these ABCs, you're doing the most important thing. ABC, always building culture. So at the end of the day, when you go through these 6 series of ABCs that I talk about, I can't give them all away, but you're building your culture by listening to the ABCs, which anybody can remember. I usually start out the speech about doing a little Michael Jackson ABC. It's easy as 1, 2, 3. Then I tell them I'm not a singer. You didn't hire me to sing. But really, I love that Danny Meyer gave a lot of us that gift about always be connecting. And he does that in his restaurants. It's listening to the customer and hearing things. And the famous story for him is, in this restaurant, it's 11 Madison Park. high-end, beautiful, fine dining. And the people sitting at the table were, I think, from the Midwest, and they hadn't yet got the New York hot dog from the cart, right? Everybody's got to get the dog in the water. So the server heard that, sends somebody down the street, picks up 6 hot dogs, brings them to the kitchen. They plate them beautifully. And now a new course comes out and it's hot dogs. And the people go crazy, right?
Yeah.
That's always be listening, always be connecting and making what we call a Disney magic for your customers and for your employees. That's how you are successful.
That goes a million miles, a million miles.
Well,
Yeah, because
it's
that's definitely a
fun
story people will share, right?
for sure. For sure.
Yeah. So, there's a million things I could talk for hours, but I don't want to take up too much of your time. I appreciate, you being here,
Sure.
and I love the conversation. The way that first of all, I know what I wanted to say. So you've got your Barryisms. I'm going to call you your Barryisms. So I think what you should do is I see this book. I see a book, and I think you should ABC the book. I want to be a co-author. Okay. And I will buy the first copy. Okay.
Okay. Well, the book is being written, so thanks, Deborah. You're spot on. I have a book that's coming out, and I think we talked about this, so thanks for reminding me. It's
Mm,
really a book with a series of about 40, 45 stories that have happened in my career. So the door hook story is in there, and it's really
great.
about no way could I have pulled that off without relationships. There are the Barry isms in there. You can't
Good.
manage from behind your desk, or with the positive, anything is possible. I'm a very positive person. I think the book is called Building a Culture of Excellence. Well, that's my tagline, one magical interaction at a time. But it's really about building a culture of excellence from on stage to backstage, backstage to on stage, and it should be out sometime in the fall. It's going to be great. It's really a lesson book, but it's for leaders, but it's for anybody who has a business, and the stories are applicable. There's stories in there where things went really great. I didn't tell the fennel story, but I have a story in there about a chipped glass when I was in a restaurant that happened, and then the bartender was forensically looking at the glass, and like I was wrong. And then the server brought me out another drink, and that glass was chipped, and my sister's glass was chipped.
Oh,
And rather than apologize and say, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry this happened," or "Let me bring you out a complimentary beer," the person said, "Well, I guess you won the chipped glass lottery." So that's bad training. That's something
yeah.
that's not the right culture. The culture should have been, I'm so sorry. I cannot believe this happened. The bartender, if a customer says that the glass is chipped, don't spend, I watched him forensically look at it, throw it away. I would never, ever, waste my time on a $1.49 Libby glass. I know they cost much more now, food and beverage people. I know food and beverage people are gonna call me out. Barry, it might have been $1.49 when you were there in the dark ages. But my point is, yeah, thanks for reminding me of the book, because I'm excited about it. It's got a lot of fun stories in it, a lot of pictures
Good.
in it of me enjoying my career with Disney, also some time with the Dallas Cowboys, and with the Sands Corporation, and with Meeting Professionals International and Club Corp. I just didn't do Disney, but the bulk of my career was at Disney, and I was fortunate enough to work for a couple of other organizations that taught me some great lessons as well.
Good for you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing all of that. And yes, I'm excited to see the book. I want to see it when it comes out, and perhaps we'll schedule another podcast visit so we can talk a little bit more about the book too and promote
Great.
it for you. All
I would
right.
love
Sound
that.
good? All
Yes, it'll
right,
be
sir.
great.
So if there was one last golden nugget that you would like to share with the audience and me, what would that be?
In every job that must be done, there's an element of fun. Snap, find the fun, and you'll enjoy your job. That's Mary Poppins. I paraphrased it. Find something that you love to do. Go out and do it to the best of your ability. Be humble, learn a lot, and stay positive. There's a lot of noise around all of us. There's a lot of things that go on, but I try to make sure that whether it's my work environment or my home environment, I try to be a happy, smiling, enthusiastic Disney cast member every single day, or a happy, smiling, enthusiastic person every day. And I think
Good for you.
that's the key.
Good
Not
for you.
easy, but it's the key.
No, and you know what? I think finding your purpose is part of the journey of being on this planet as a human being. The one thing that I want to make sure that people don't forget, because you said it at the very beginning, and I paraphrased it, so I'm going to paraphrase it again. If you step into something, because you said, how do I differentiate myself from the other 9,999 people? What do I have to do to stand out and be different, and how to differentiate myself? And what you ended up doing was stepping into a lake, and you put your foot in and it started to ripple out. And then you took another step and it rippled out some more. And I think that that is a beautiful legacy to leave, because you also were the role model for many people who were watching you. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Deborah. I really appreciate that. I love your metaphor there, because actually, at being a lifeguard at the Polynesian Hotel, I stepped into the Seven Seas Lagoon many times and put my foot in that water. And whether it was the lagoon or the pool,
You
those
were
first
rippling everywhere.
I was rippling, and the foundation for learning and growing as a leader started with my parents, and then I was lucky enough to work for some extraordinary leaders and mentors who provided guidance throughout my career. And today, I really appreciate you saying I hope there's some people out there that felt that I provided the same level of care for them as a human being, so that they could grow and they could put their foot in the lake and ripple affect their careers or their
Nice.
lives.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure there are. And I'm sure that they're setting goals and role modeling for their kids, and their kids don't even know who you are, and yet you're still having an impact on their lives, right?
I hope so. Thanks so
Yeah.
much.
That's a,
That is
you're
really nice.
welcome.
I'm going to remember that.
Good. Oh,
So
good. And then when you say that, make sure you say Deborah Pearlman said, okay.
I'm going to say, I always talk about being highly visible and, you know, asking and volunteering for things to do. But, it really does start with putting your foot in the water,
Yeah.
or throwing that stone in the water and watching the ripples. And you can have a ripple effect on so many things just by taking that first little dip, It's great
Yeah.
stuff. Thanks,
100%.
Deborah.
You're welcome. All right, Mr. Barry Jacobson. So if somebody wants to get a hold of you, how do they do that?
I think the easiest thing is barryjacobsonconsulting.com. And you can see my website, and all my contact information is there.
Nice. Nice. All right. Well, thank you again for your time. I'm looking forward to seeing the book, and I will see you probably in a few months right back here again. Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Deborah. Have a great afternoon.